This program was first broadcast on Canterbury's access media station, Plains FM, and was made with the assistance of New Zealand On Air.
Welcome to your weekly dose of the Accountology Show. I'm your host and chartered accountant, Nicole Hay, with an insatiable curiosity for uncovering accounting ideas to help businesses grow. I have so many nuggets of gold to share. Are you ready to make your good business great? Let's get stuck right in. Hey, it's your host, Nicole Hay. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Accountology Show. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting an incredibly talented guest, Georgia Langridge from Modi Design. Georgia is an accomplished interior designer and the director of Modi Design, a Christchurch-based interior design practice renowned for its unique creativity, high-end finishes, and meticulous attention to detail. Georgia and her team curate a portfolio of high-end, uniquely tailored designs, consistently focusing on creating sophisticated, refined, and timeless interiors that resonate with the client's vision. Of course, the strategy and philosophy works so well due to their collaboration with leading designers, architects, builders, developers, and suppliers, ensuring each project achieves the pinnacle of design excellence, positioning Modi Design as a standout in the interior design industry. Today, Georgia will share insights into her design journey, the inspiration behind Modi Design's distinctive approach and business elements, and her thoughts on the future of interior design. Welcome, Georgia, to the show.
Hello, thank you.
How are you?
Yes, good, thank you. That was quite an introduction. I quite liked that.
Oh, thanks. Should I repeat it?
Yeah. So inflated ego, I love it.
So what I thought about today is that we'd have a quick conversation, have a discussion around your journey to get where you are today, and then how you got into business and established, your criteria and where you are at this point in time. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, so I am one of three girls. So I come from a household where there's a lot of kind of female and feminine presence, and so we're all quite strong and independent. I'm quite different from my sisters, really similar to my mum.
Where do you fit in the line?
So I'm the youngest.
Oh, you're the youngest.
Yes, with two twin older sisters. So was always quite the independent one who played on her own and all of those kind of things. So it's interesting now being a little bit older how the kind of surroundings of your upbringing can reflect on you in later life as well. So yes, a lot of female energy. My sisters are very intelligent and I'm more of the creative, I guess, of the group. And then yes, always lived in Christchurch. It's what I know. I've gone overseas quite a bit for holidays, but this is really where I've anchored myself.
So in terms of your family background, is anyone in the interior design industry?
No, but my mum and my nana are very house proud, always doing up their interiors. I guess I didn't know anything different growing up in, a household like that and a nana like that. Always up with trends and fashion and always well presented. So I think without even realising that was my surroundings. And so it just kind of naturally came to me also. And so I would be changing around my room and doing up duvet covers and wallpapers and things with my parents, on the weekend and things. So yes, very kind of sewn into the fibres of, my childhood.
So what about at school? What did you study that sort of took you in that direction of interior design?
Yeah, basically all of the design subjects. So art history, classics, graphics, design, photography, English. That was, everything.
So at school, did you know that's what you wanted to do?
No, to be fair, I kind of floundered around a little bit. I think that was probably the hardest thing for me. Kind of trying to see where I fitted in. A lot of my friends, they already knew where they were going to uni. I took a year off and I worked and I studied abroad, but I knew that I wanted it to be in something kind of creative, dabbled down the path of maybe graphic design or photography, even thought of the idea of nutrition or a dietitian or something like that, really kind of just seeing what would stick. And so it wasn't really until I was at home with my cousin and my mum, and he was looking through an Auckland apartment that he was going to buy. And so I was picking up on these little details in the house of saying, oh, that's really cool, and other elements. And he said, you should be an interior designer. And that's kind of the light bulb moment. It just never really felt like it was a career path, I guess, because it just came naturally from my upbringing with mum, always being so house proud and doing up her houses. It just kind of came naturally. So once that kind of light bulb moment happened, it was kind of like a aha, like, oh, that's
what I'm meant to be.
Yeah, and so never looked back after that. Studied at Design and Arts College in Christchurch, then had two jobs before going out on my own and starting my own business.
So just going back to the working abroad, so you had a gap year from...
Not even that. It was really just I was into visual merchandising and working at a fashion store. I only travelled for about, 3 months at the time, and then I would come back and work, and then I went on another holiday, and then it was just a case of trying to save money to then know that I was going to study, and then finding out that, yes, it would be the path of going to Design and Arts College, but just trying to get a little bit of money behind me before I could, venture into student life.
Would have you started the year after you finished?
Yes.
Right, okay. So you did have a full year off after?
Full year off,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. And tell me, your cousin's apartment, did you end up doing any interior design?
No, I didn't. He didn't even buy the apartment.
Oh.
He didn't even go to Auckland. So it was all a bit of a, it came out great for me.
Well, the process was meant to be, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
So Design and Arts College, how long did you study there?
It's 2 years, but it's full-time. So I was still working part-time as well, but it's what they kind of classified as full-time hours. So it was pretty heavy going, but I think it suited my style. I quite like going in and kind of giving it 100% and putting in a lot of hours. And so that kind of intensity really appealed to me anyways. And I think it's a good foundation. I was already working a lot. It was good to get it kind of over and done within 2 years.
Were you working in the industry at the same time as studying, or was it completely different? You were just trying to get enough cash behind you to pay for your studies?
Basically 100%, yes. So I was working in fashion still as the visual merchandiser, which I guess kind of tended to play a little bit of a role. It's very much how you feel within the space and kind of what you gravitate to. And
that is one of the questions that I had was... Yes. How did you know that you wanted to go not in the fashion direction, but interior design, for instance? Because it can be it's not a distinct difference, is it, at times?
Yeah, and I think actually they kind of follow each other. I mean, I love wearing different garments and putting different outfits together. So it's always something that I've been interested in. But I also think that interior design actually follows fashion. And so there are those kind of commonalities and those... that kind of thread that follows between them. But I think it's the environment that you're in. I think there's still always those, an outfit is kind of a direct kind of influence of who you are as a person or an expression of who you are. An interior is as well. And I think I quite like that, the surroundings that you're in really appeals to me. How does that make you feel? And I think diving a little bit deeper and realizing that, maybe what comes naturally to some people with designing a space is not the case for everyone. And I think once I kind of gathered that, I thought how amazing to be able to help other people. So that was kind of that defining moment where it was definitely interiors that I wanted to get into.
Because ultimately what you're doing is not just providing a product at the end that looks lovely, but it's actually about how it makes somebody feel as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a total lifestyle. And I think it totally changes your mood. And I think a space that is... even practically, if it's well considered, there's storage solutions where, your house isn't cluttered and it doesn't have things that kind of, boggle the mind. And I think also enhancing particular pieces that are, you might have bought them abroad or you've curated these lovely pieces, and it's about how to bring those together and how is that used as a springboard for the whole interior itself. So I think that really appeals to me, to kind of really dive in and have a little bit of a inspiration that you can springboard into, a whole house project.
Have you ever worked with any clients that you may have gone into their house and it's been an absolute diabolical chaos?
Yeah.
And then, but you've, almost turn that whole situation around and put them into something that's very calming?
Yeah, I think a lot of the clients that I have are all very different within themselves, but I do see a commonality in a lot of them are super busy, they're time poor, they've got really hectic lives. And I think sometimes when I'll do an initial walkthrough, particularly if it's a renovation, but sometimes I'll go through the client's existing house, even if they're doing a new build, gives me a really good insight to how they live. And I like at that initial meeting for the client to be incredibly unapologetic. I don't want them, tidying, going into people's houses and them being unapologetically themselves. So, they'll say, oh, I'll tidy before you turn up. And it's like, no, I need to see how you live and what are your pain points? What are your storage solutions that, you need and how do you live? I can't design the best design for someone if they're maybe changing up or maybe having a little bit of kind of like a smoke screen of how they're living in the house. So for me, that's really important to get that initial rapport with a client where they can say, this is how we live. These are the pain points. And then it's about enhancing how they live through different practicalities and through joinery design and spatial layouts and all of that.
So what about business? How long ago did you get into your own business?
Coming up 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a long
7 years.
time. Yeah.
And what was the initial thought to get you into your own business? What made you think it's time that I did this myself?
Yeah, I wanted to stay in Christchurch. There weren't a lot of options of a workplace that covered off everything within the interior envelope. And so it really just came organically of I had a couple of really great connections to be able to go out and feel like I had a little bit of a backing in that sense. But also my dad's a business owner, and so my mum, she will help with dad's business as well. So they're in that together. And then at the time I was surrounded by a lot of people that were in business. And so it didn't seem as daunting. It really just felt like a natural progression of just, hey, this is, something. I mean, there was still fear there, but it felt plausible. It felt like something that I could do, taking everything that I had learned and what are the processes that I have had with interior design clients and how can I amplify that and how can I make that my own. I also really enjoy working, so it made sense to work for myself as well.
Exactly. So what about in terms of the business and having some mentorship or someone to give you guidance, or have you got someone, who do you use? Who is it, a family member?
I think having your family is a really good soundboard. I think I'm quite optimistic and I'll probably have these really big dreams, and I think having people that will say, it's in a really lovely, still positive way, have you considered, this kind of flip side of it? I think probably to my detriment, I always see things in, the best scenario possible. So I think
tinted glasses.
Yeah. And so it's really important, I think, to have that kind of background of have you considered this, but also a really encouraging kind of atmosphere and people around you as well. Again, it's a lot of people that are in business. They'll give you little tips and tricks and kind of these little nuggets to kind of guide the way. And then probably the biggest missing piece for me was accounts, which is where you came in, and just getting that foundation of budgeting, forecasting, where am I now? Where am I in 5 years? I think that was really important for me to get those fundamentals. And then it's just a case of, surrounding myself with people who are like-minded, what's tried and tested with them, reading books, reading studies and things. I'm not big on, kind of I'm more of like like novels, like a little, I don't know, I can't even think of the author, like a Sally Rooney or something. So it's not really me to kind of read those kind of books. I'm a little bit more kind of interaction based. But I think sometimes it's just personal connections and who do you know that can shape that as well.
And what about motivation? Because there can be times when it becomes rather challenging.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you do in particular to keep yourself motivated?
Yeah, I think for me, if I'm not motivated, I'm quite lucky in my industry. There's, the creative side of it, but there's the organizational side of it. It's writing up fee proposals. It's doing spreadsheets. It's so multifaceted that if I'm not gaining the inspiration for maybe a concept work for a client, I can put that aside and I'll move on to something else. So for me, it might not be doing the task that I'm meant to be doing, but doing something within the business.
Exactly.
And so I respond well to being able to change up and do different things within kind of my daily role at work. So for me, that's kind of like my secret kind of inspiration to kind of get me going. I'll move on to something else and come back to it.
What about your thoughts on interior design and where that's going in the future, especially with AI and there's so many developments coming in? Where do you see the industry?
I mean, terribly. I'm not very good at keeping up with technology. I'm terrible. My partner would be very displeased because he's so up with everything technology based. But I think AI just has the potential for anything, essentially. I mean, I see some renders coming through and they are beautiful and it looks like you're in the room. I think it's just the way that the world's going. You've got to lean into it. I think if you're not kind of staying with those trends and if you're not keeping up with it, you'll be behind the times. So I think having a little bit of a finger on the pulse in that sense. But yeah, as I say, technology is not really my kind of strong suit, but I do have Beth in the business who is very good with technology. So delegation in that kind of realm. But
and that's a really important thing, isn't it? To not wear every hat and technically wear yourself out. That you have been able to delegate some of those tasks to other people to do as well.
That was a massive challenge for me in my business. I was terrified of being responsible for someone else's income, essentially.
And putting food on the table of another 100%.
Family. It took a long time for me to, I don't really say I wish I had done it sooner because I think you have to be in the right process. But as soon as I did hire someone, it was just
game changer.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah,
game changer. And it is that scary step to take that. Do I employ them now? Is it, the chicken and the egg? Do I employ them now when I don't quite need them, but I need to get them trained up so they're ready to go? Or do I wait until all the work comes in and then I'm slowed down because I've got to do training as well?
Yes.
So understanding where that sits. And I think that initial investment into that training can make a significant difference.
I agree.
And I think also having that perspective of, well, how much, if we worked out your hourly rate, how much would it be for you to do this particular task versus, or what if you paid for somebody else to do that? That could be significantly less than what your chargeable rate is, even if it might be something that you love doing.
Yes.
But I think it's really important to understand that sort of matrix of where
I agree
where it all sits.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, there's three of us that work at Modi, and I think it's important for all of us to come together, but each of us have our realm that we really excel in. And, you might be really good at one part of it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you should be in that part, for me anyways. So it's about kind of wearing all the hats, but also having that trust to be able to have someone be that driving force of that sector and come back to you and say, hey, this is done X, Y, Z. And yeah, when you get to that point, it's amazing. And you're just like, wow, it's just like an extension of me. Yeah. And they're just, really excelling and taking it all on.
Oh my goodness, we're coming to the end of our time. It's gone super fast. But I thought we'd have some quick fire questions at the end. So what is one of the biggest lessons that you've learned in business?
I think it would be around pricing, and I think it is about charging for the time that you've done. I think initially when I went out on my own, it was such a fear of mine, to invoice someone. So what I went back and took it as more of take the emotion out of that kind of transaction and it just becomes factual. And so we created systems of how much time did we spend on everything, and it's all detailed out. And so it becomes hey, this is the work against the scope. This is how long it took against the scope. We used to do fee proposals, and now we'll do a slider scale of, hey, this is where it'll sit between your design fees, but we will do it by the hour, and we can give you all of that kind of call sheet of all the work done. So that was really helpful. I think that was a really big lesson in taking a bit of the emotion out of it. And it's just, if you've done the work, make sure it's really detailed and concise and send that through to clients, being transparent. That would probably be the biggest one. It was the biggest hurdle, and then it was, probably the biggest lesson of...
Yeah, it is a big one. There's a lot of emotion attached to money and finance.
There really is. I think for both parties as well, for both sides of it. No one really likes talking about
and understanding
money.
The value that's been provided.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, so then what would your money mindset be? And this is generally, I think it has a lot to do with how you were raised as well. Do you think it's a scarcity mindset or abundance?
I think I look to be more of a scarcity because, again, that is how I was brought up. I mean, I had a dollar mixture and my sisters would eat it in one day and I would make it last like a week or 2 weeks and have like one lolly a day. But I think it's important to have that abundance mindset. And so that's kind of what I'm traveling into. And I think for being in a business and long term, that's kind of the mindset that you have to have, even though I probably naturally go into that scarcity.
Yeah. Okay. What about what sparks joy for you? This is a really important one.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's not the big things. It's not kind of everything that you see on Instagram or everything that's really lavish. For me, I'm quite a homebody. So for me, it's just sometimes a little bit of a reset. It could just be reading a book or just hanging out at home with my partner or with friends and family. I do really like traveling. That brings me a lot of inspiration that I can then bring home. I'm really big on different types of cuisine and nice hot weather and, you know, the different, like the architecture. I mean, it's so beautiful overseas. Europe, big fan of. So I think that's probably what sparks me joy. And it's funny that all kind of interrelates into interior design somehow, and I think it's just kind of embedded in me that it's all just kind of this big circle where it all comes full circle. But there's definitely it's not kind of nothing involved with adrenaline or anything. It's just more of a slower pace, just appreciating small things.
I agree with you. I think we underestimate some of those small things that can really provide lots of joy, like a hot cup of tea in bed watching a movie.
Yes, a red wine in a book or just a really easy TV show that is just kind of in the background. Yes, 100%.
Okay, here's the tricky one. So you have an all expenses paid dinner at any chosen restaurant in the world. Where in the world would you go to dine and with whom?
Again, this is kind of playing in my homebody. It really would just be my partner, Blair. And I don't know, anywhere in Paris is amazing. Even just, it's not a dinner, but like a picnic outside would be amazing.
Yes, with baguette.
Yes, and like some wine and cheese and things like that. But yeah, I think it's the company that you keep and the surroundings that you're in. It would be quite nice to be outdoors. But beautiful restaurants in Paris, anywhere.
That sounds stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Yes, I'd like to go this year. It would be nice.
Well, I know. I would too. Okay, so thank you so much, Georgia. That wraps up our enlightening conversation with Georgia Langridge from Modi Design. Thank you again for joining us today and sharing your incredible insights into the world of interior design and business. It did go super fast, and we could have talked a lot longer than what we did. Your passion for the industry and creating sophisticated, refined and timeless interiors truly does shine through in the conversation that we've had. And it was fascinating to hear about your business journey, the challenges you've faced and how you've overcome them. And I think very interestingly, where you see the future of interior design. If you want to learn more about Georgia and her work at Modi Design, be sure to check out their website, which is
www.modidesign.co.nz.
Cool. And other social media platforms?
Yeah, Instagram, Modi_design.
Great. Facebook? Just Instagram?
Instagram, really. Okay. Yeah.
And Georgia, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. So thank you once again for your time and sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the Accountology Show. If you have enjoyed today's show, you're in luck because we'll be back next week. You'll find past episodes at plainsfm.org.nz and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to never miss an episode. We would love it if you would leave a 5-star review and tell a friend or business owner who would benefit from hearing our show. We also love hearing from you, so reach out with any comments or a topic you'd like covered, and even suggestions for whom we should get in the studio next for an interview. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn and TikTok. Our handle is NH Plus Associates, that's NHPLUS Associates, or email me, nicole@nh-a.co.nz. But most importantly, thank you for taking the time to listen to the show. Until next time, keep building that business into the empire it absolutely deserves to be.